This is Capsule on liveandlimbo.com. My name is Sean Chin.
And I am Andreas. This is an insight into film, music, pop culture, and the like.
This week, we have an awesome Canadian Music Week recap podcast. And we have 4 people on the panel today. Myself, Andreas, you all know Andreas. And we're bringing back Dakota, who you've heard from the Oscars show. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm happy to be back.
And you've survived CMW.
Just barely.
Just barely. And for the first time ever, we're bringing on our senior concert photographer and reviewer, Sarah Ricks. How's it going?
Good, thanks. Glad to be joining you guys.
Awesome. Okay, so just briefly tell us and all the listeners who you are that don't know who you are.
Who am I? That's an existential question. So I write and photograph for you guys, Live in Limbo, and I go to a lot of concerts, and I work actually for, oddly enough, Canadian Music Week's competition, which is North by Northeast.
Ooh,
That's
what if they
coming up
hear
next
this?
month. No, that's fine.
They're gonna be so mad.
They know I like music, I hope, so it should be fine.
And you're a veteran of the music scene, in my opinion. And if people want even more information, you did a interview with me on Live in Limbo, which people can read and digest all of that good stuff.
They sure can.
All right, so there is so much to talk about, and hopefully we won't keep everyone for too long. But let's dive right into this. Favorite moments. We'll go around the table. Andreas, one favorite moment.
One. Okay, I've got a lot of these.
Okay, we'll make it two. Make it two.
Okay, that actually helps.
Yeah.
So because there's two, I can divvy this up a little bit. So I can go with my favorite actual concert and my favorite moment outside of a concert. So my favorite actual concert, if you've been keeping up with my reviews, which I know I write a lot, so I know it's tough, but my favorite concert was yesterday's television. Was fantastic. One of the best shows I think I've ever been to. It was flawless show. Just everything was perfect about it. But we'll get into that, I guess, as we go into like recaps. My favorite out of concert moment was being able to meet the one and only Nile Rodgers. That was an incredible moment for me. Should I go into that a little bit?
Yeah, you can talk about that.
Okay, so
you went to the panels too, the celebrity interview panels.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that when we go like over like the week or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I did attend the Nile Rodgers interview, which was conducted by Paul Williams, another legend who is pretty much like feet away from me, which both of those things like blew my mind. This is an interesting story because I actually bumped into Nile Rodgers a number of times, but I didn't actually meet him. The very first time I was on the phone with somebody, like a representative from Audio Blood, who was going to escort me into the interview room because you can't just go in, even with your media bracelet, you have to be escorted in. So I was calling her to see where she was. I was waiting at the hotspot to be brought in. And I see Nile Rodgers on the opposing escalator just going up like right beside me. And I say, oh, well, that was interesting. So that was that. During the actual interview itself, they had an opportunity for a Q&A. And I shot my hand up pretty quickly for that, but they picked a number of people before me. So I didn't get a chance to do that either. And I was like sitting like right front row, right in front of him. I'm sure he saw me in my hat, I guess. And I was like, well, darn. So that's strike 2. The third time, he'd actually won an award. I'll get into that a little bit more as I do a recap. And I ran up to the stage because everybody was shaking his hand, thanking him, congratulating him, getting stuff signed. I was like, this is the moment. I just want to tell him that I'm writing for Live in Limbo. I'm going to cover this. And he was a phenomenal speaker. So I went up, and literally as I was about to speak, security pushed us all out, and that was the end of that. So I said, well, crap, I tried, at least. And I was actually on the phone with you, trying to tell you how it went.
That's
Sean.
right. I was on it. So I got to kind of interact with him just slightly.
A little bit, because I was on the phone with you, and I was like, well, I just missed him, this and that. And I was actually supposed to do another interview, which got waylaid because the Marriott Hotel, where all of this was held, had a fire alarm.
That's right.
And it pushed everything aside. So my interview got canceled, or postponed rather. So I left earlier than I thought, and I was just on the phone with you giving you a heads up. And then suddenly he walked past me yet again, and I said, Sean, hang on a second. So,
I
at
told
first
you
I
to
was
dash after him. I told you to
Yeah,
dash,
at first I was like, "Oh, damn, I missed him yet again." Like he's covered with security guards, and you're like, "No, don't you dare go out there and go find this guy." So I went out while he was busy trying to leave for the airport with his suitcase and stuff, and I finally got a chance to talk to him. I said, "You're a big inspiration of mine. I'm a huge fan of so many albums that you've worked on. You gave a very inspirational speech. It was fantastic." And he just humbly was thanking me, like, "Oh yeah, thank you, man." So,
And I heard all of it. Like he Andreas put his phone down to his side or something, and I could hear the whole conversation. So that was cool.
yeah, it was in my pocket, and that was that. I left, and I was like, "Yo, did you hear that?" Just like
I was like, "Yep, I heard
like
that. That was
like
awesome."
I was 15 years old, like I just went like very immature, like, "Yo, man, that was sick," or whatever. So, yeah,
Did you fangirl?
a little bit, and that's very rare for me. That I
Yeah,
rarely
you don't usually do
do
that.
that. No, I don't. I did a little bit because it's Nile
Nile
Rodgers.
yeah.
That's huge. So, yeah, I left and I got back, and everyone asked me how was the conference. I was like, "That doesn't matter. I met Nile Rodgers."
Yeah,
So,
that's great. All
Yeah,
right. Those are your two. You got your two already. Now we'll go over to Dakota. Two of your favorite moments from CMW.
Okay. Well, last night I went to the Indie Awards, which was at the Cool House, and that was pretty crazy just because all of the bands were really excellent. There was not a disappointing act amongst them. I'm a really big Born Ruffians fan. They put on a fantastic show. It was really cool to see how everyone really got into them, even though they were one of the earlier bands. So they were probably my personal favorite, but Colorado probably put on the best show. There was just so much energy. They were shooting confetti guns. At one point, they were spraying foam on the audience. It was pretty crazy. So that was the best show I saw.
Did you get any foam on you?
I was unfortunately just a few rows too far back to get it on me, which maybe I'm a little happy because it seemed to be like very soapy. So like a bunch of the girls that had like big poofy hair, they were like trying to scoop it out of their hair in gobs. So
Like shampoo.
Yeah, I guess I dodged that one by a little bit, but I got some interesting pictures on my cell phone about it.
Oh, that's good. And your number two favorite moment?
As embarrassing as it is, I just got a camera and I shot my first show.
That's right.
It was
you're a virgin concert photographer.
Yeah, and I was a huge mess. I got to the venue thinking I was prepared as I could be, watching different videos, reading a whole bunch of stuff, and I got there and I was just lost. I had no idea what I was doing. I was
You got it like the day right before the show too.
I did.
And I sent you like a 2-page list of videos and articles to read. And
I went through most of them. I was like, okay, all right. I got a basic understanding. Everyone's telling me this is a great starter kit. I shouldn't be too lost in the woods. But once I was there in the moment, and they say, okay, you have the first 3 songs to shoot, no more. That's when it kind of hit me when I went, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh.
I have no idea what I'm doing. And then to make matters worse, the entire show was completely backlit. There was not a single light on their faces at all. That almost all the photos that I did, once I figured out how to use the damn thing, they were pretty much all unusable, as you saw when I sent you about a dozen pictures.
Yeah, and there was no photo pit either, so all the odds were against you there.
It was. So it was a shame.
You had a decent camera, a T3i, the Canon T3i, that's decent. And you have the starter kit lenses and but the funniest part for me was when you sent me a picture of your settings and it said f36. I was like, you're doing some long exposure landscape photos here, eh?
Like I said, in fairness to me, I was trying to figure out what I was doing wrong because I was shooting and everything was coming up completely black. So I decided to go with the different settings. You had told me what settings were probably the most optimal, but I was going, on either end extreme for all of the different ones to figure out what I was doing wrong and where I could fix it. And when I sent you that picture, admittedly, I changed it off the settings that you had told me to do. And of course, it made me look even more of a fool.
Oh, it's okay. You got to start somewhere. I think Sarah and I can kind of relate, but like when you're trying to tell another newbie photographer what to do and you're like, go for f2.8 or less, and they're like, mine does not go that. load.
Yeah. Mine didn't.
Yeah, that's what the kit lenses do.
Yeah.
Yep.
It gets better, you guys. It gets better.
Well, I hope
I'm going to be bugging the two of you so much now.
No, that's fine. Sarah's probably more. She has more expertise with the Canon stuff. I use Nikon. Okay,
Ooh.
Sarah, your 2 top favorite moments of CMW.
First of all, I'm going to have to go with the fact that now CMW is in May. I think the warmer weather is definitely a better thing for them. I think people were just happier to be out in the warm weather, to be honest. And so I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't freezing cold and in March.
Oh, was it March before?
Whether or not they keep it in May is a different question, but we'll see. It used to be in March. This is the first year they've done it in May.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, it used to be
this
chilly.
is so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's obviously controversy because now it's a month before North by Northeast, and a lot of people say, well, those are too close together now. But
that's what
we'll
I
see.
Said.
Yeah. We'll see how that works out for them. I think people were generally happier that they could walk around without a jacket because I've done the CMW in March and it's pretty miserable. And then second of all, I actually really enjoyed seeing an Australian band called King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
What?
I heard that.
That's
Yes.
the name of a festival.
That's the name of the band. I wasn't expecting much from them, but they were absolutely incredible. I saw them during a day show. They were playing the Horseshoe Tavern, and they were fantastic.
Describe their music. Like, what are they like?
They're kind of like psych rock, I would say. So they have a very 70s throwback feel. I think there are a lot of people in the band. I think there are like 7 or 8 members, and they have 2 drummers. So it was just this like huge wall of sound, and they played like this one 15-minute song. It was great.
Wow, it's like the Grateful Dead almost. This.
Almost. I'm not really into like jam out sessions, but they were really good, and I was surprised.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome. And for me, my number 1 favorite moment was getting to hang out with the whole Live in Limbo team, as cheesy as that sounds, but it's cool.
Even me, that's a bit
Andreas.
low standard, Sean.
Hey, you're my co-host. And we got a picture together, so we have like a what are they called? Like a band photo kind of thing. Sarah took that, which we probably won't use.
Like a spoken word instrumental band.
Yes, exactly. And number 2 was seeing all the social engagement, all of the whole coverage has been getting. So that's really good. We got a lot of artists, Facebook posts and retweets from like Amanda Palmer, all of that good stuff. And when you people tell me about like when people ask you who you're reviewing for or shooting for, and then they know what Live in Limbo is, that makes me happy. And yesterday I found out that Live in Limbo is like a news resource on Google now, so that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. I gave it like a number of shots just to like triple check. Yeah, I'm like, I know when I type City and Color Toronto, it's going to show Live in Limbo under the news. I know it is, but I just want to look at it anyways because it just feels
just
so
to double
good.
check to make sure it's actually there.
Still there, yeah.
Feels so good.
And because I run this thing, I get number 3. I got a third one. I want to say musically, I really enjoyed Elephant at the Tattoo.
Yeah,
she was really good.
What a surprising artist, actually. Phenomenal.
Wait,
I
do you
agree.
pronounce it Elephant or Elephant?
I just went with Elephant. I have no idea.
She's amazing. I like her stuff.
Great opening act, yeah.
Sarah, what does it feel like to see, like, when you type in City and Color? It's like your picture of Dallas Green is wedged in between the Toronto Sun and like the Montreal Gazette.
I wasn't expecting it, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so so I think it was a great idea that after the fact, like before the MIA show was supposed to be at Yonge and Dundas Square, how many people can that hold?
That was like 16,000.
Wow, 16,000. And so then the week before, CMW's like, yeah, we're moving this to a 400-person venue at the Tattoo, the newly renovated Tattoo Queen West.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of outrage, but it turned out to be for the best because the weather that day was pretty crappy. And
so I do know people who would have come from out of town to see it. So it's good that the festival were able to accommodate her in a smaller venue for people that are from Toronto. But I think for people that were coming from out of Toronto, it was a little bit frustrating for them.
They missed
out
for
point,
sure.
Actually.
If you could get into there, it was amazing. It was like phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
So
Like-
200 people had to either go there on like the Wednesday at like 6 p.m. to get special wristbands, which Sarah did, but did not go for some reason.
I had another show to cover,
Yes,
guys.
I know. But that shows how passionate you were. You're just curious about it.
I was very curious.
and
The whole getting a wristband thing wasn't a problem at all. So as long as you were there by 6, you got one. So that was well handled.
And then the other 200 had to do some random lottery thing. And
So only like 30 people who did the rush line got in.
yeah, I know. So like,
Wow.
even though, so Andreas reviewed it, but he did not get media approval to review it, nor did he wait on the Wednesday at 6, nor did he win the lottery. But he just showed up. He was like first in line. I went with him after we hung out with Sarah. He was first in line, and they only allowed 30 people in the rush line to get in. So that was good.
Oh, you made it, at least.
And
That's like winning the lottery.
what was interesting, though, was that I think like 10 media outlets got approved to cover it, and only 2 were web, and we were one of them. So that was awesome. So we had great coverage for that.
Now, what happened to you? Because I find this very interesting. What happened to you when you were taking photographs of MIA? Just so everyone knows.
What do you mean? What happened to me?
After your 3 songs?
Oh, yeah. No, well, after the 3 songs, you get kicked out.
Yeah. That's bizarre because usually you could just stick around, but
I think I saw some people stick around, but I had to go and start processing them because I'd like to get them out on the next day.
oh, I thought you were like actually kicked out.
Well, no, they indirectly try to like push you out, but they're not going to like force you out. Not at that venue, at least. Sometimes they actually do.
I thought they did,
Maybe.
and I said, that's so peculiar. Is that because it was just so exclusive? I don't know.
It was really
usually
packed. Yeah.
It depends on the concert promoter as well. Like I know this one was Audio Blood, so I don't know how they handle things, but like if it's Embrace or Collective or Live Nation, it's up to them.
Audio Blood's pretty friendly, though.
Oh, yeah, they're
Yeah.
great. They were really great to us this year. We got approved for everything.
Oh, yeah, Audio Blood were fantastic. We'll get to that at the end, though. But yeah, so Elephant opened, and it's pretty rare to see so many people in the audience going ballistic over an opening act, but she did well, and she was very tongue-in-cheek, which I appreciate. Like, she'd actually stop a song midway and be like, okay, look, I know you're excited for MIA, okay, but can you try and give a little bit of a shit for me? So just like playing with the audience a little bit, but she didn't seem like angry or anything. She just seemed like playful about it. No, she was really good, though.
Yeah, that's great. And there was a photo pit, but it was super, super narrow. And we were supposed to be able to use it. And then at the last minute, like right at the venue, they're like, no, you have to shoot from behind the soundboard, which also wasn't bad because the whole venue was like 5 rows of people.
Yeah.
But then some of the other photographers only had their standard range lens, so they were kind of pissed, but whatever.
Yeah, do you want me to recap on what you missed because you left?
Yeah, sure.
Something interesting that happened, which would have been like in my top 5 favorite moments, is that MIA was on stage. She was performing. She had her backup dancers and her singers. It was very active. She was a little bit. She noticed that the sound was a little bit off, so I think it was throwing off her a little bit. But she, not like talent wise, she was still spot on. But she just felt like she was out of it, and because it was really hot in the venue, she actually decided, like, you know what, I'm uncomfortable up here. I'm not happy with the sound. I'm gonna come over here with you guys. So she just bolted it to the audience at the back row and just like on top of like the barrier just started performing. And she performed Paper Planes with the audience, which was crazy. She performed Bad Girls a cappella because the bass wasn't good enough. She actually was putting it off the whole night. She said, no, I'm not doing that song. The bass isn't good enough. And she did it a cappella. And she said, okay, let's see if they fixed it now. They did fix it to a considerable degree. She said, okay, you know what, that'll do. So she booked it back onto the stage. She was literally centimeters away from me. Like, she brushed past me back onto the stage, and she performed Bad Girls again. That's crazy. That kind of, it shows one's talent if they can throw things together, like literally on the spot like this, where they can perform, first of all, a cappella without missing a beat or a note or anything. And secondly, just take control of the entire concert and not have to rely on things going your way. If they're not going your way, you just do what MIA does and just like make it your own. It's crazy. And you missed out on it, John.
Yeah, I know. There's some things that photographers have to miss out on, but it's okay.
You missed out on that. I've never seen a performer do that. Just like hang out in the crowd and just perform like their best
That was
songs.
pretty unique. Yeah, I saw some like Instagram videos after. That was pretty cool. But that,
crazy.
yeah. So that was like the beginning. That was the kickoff to CMW.
Yeah.
And then so we'll jump back into the actual formal day one. And Sarah, so you covered Field Study, The Booze Bombs, My Pet Genius. How were those?
I did. Field Study was actually a really nice start. I love the Dakota Tavern, so it was nice being in there. It was kind of weird because it was still light outside when I was there, and it's kind of a dark bar in the basement. But the band were great. They're from Toronto, so it was nice to see some local talent starting my Canadian Music Week. The Booze Bombs, interesting. Yeah.
That's it.
That's too promising.
They're a German rockabilly band, which was a little strange. Just to hear them like talk and then play like such what I would consider American music. They did it well. It was just kind of a weird disconnect. And then My Pet Genius, they were good. They were good. I don't really remember them. They all kind of start to blur into one, I guess. Yeah. I also saw Aves.
Yeah, that's right. You saw Aves. How were they? At
They
Baltic
were actually-
Avenue. Yeah.
They were fun. They were fun, actually.
So out of those four, who should we
I'll
pay
give them
attention
fun.
to?
Field Study probably performed, like, they were probably the one performance I remember the most from that day, so let's go with Field Study.
Okay. And yeah, so all of you listeners out there, we'll have a link to each one of these articles that we mentioned in the show notes. And so Dakota, how was Justin Nozuka? You wanted to see this guy, and you're actually like buddies with him in high school.
I am, yeah. I went to high school with Justin Nozuka, and I think he's an incredibly talented person. And I think no matter what, I'd probably end up being a fan of him. It might have taken me longer to find out who he was, but either way, I dig his sound. He just released his newest album, and in the past, he's kind of been really like folk, pop, R&B, jazz, soul, a whole bunch of like upbeat influences. And then his newest album is very like XX, Alt J, minimalism style. And unfortunately, I don't know how you want to look at it. His show was very minimalist. And even the older songs he played, he retooled them to have that lower energy, sustained note sort of vibe going on. And I think a lot of people there were hoping for a much more upbeat show.
So the people were surprised. You were surprised.
I personally was surprised.
Or was it like confused? Were you confused?
I'm not too sure. I think it was one of those things where, you know, when an artist comes out with a new album and they're touring, you go in expecting anywhere from 25 to 50% of the set will probably be their newest material. They're on the road to promote their newest stuff. So, you know, you go in, and that's what you expect. And it's great. You know, you get familiar with what their new stuff is and you enjoy it and it's fantastic, whatever. The problem was, I think, he retooled his old stuff to sound like his new stuff, and it was all very low energy. And he has a very fervent fan base, and they'd be shouting, "Hey, play this, play that." And, you know, you play the song, you're like, okay, now the next one's going to be this one, right? And it wasn't. It was about 85, 90% new material.
Yeah, I guess some artists have that phase.
Mm-hmm. And like, I love his new album. I think it sounds great. It's just, it didn't
Not
exactly.
live.
I don't know. Maybe depending on a different setting. It was at the Mod Club. And, you know, when you say the Mod Club, it's mostly known for having its like big dance parties, clubs, lots of DJs spinning, always dancing sort of thing. It's a very upbeat venue. And when you go to see a show there, I think you kind of expect the same thing.
Yeah. And Sarah, you've interviewed him before.
I have a while back at the Junos.
And what do you think of him?
I don't know his music super, super well, and I just remember him being very, very quiet and kind of shy. I'm interested in hearing like this alt J direction that Dakota's talking about and where he's going with that, but I don't know.
All right. That's cool. Yeah. And then, so moving on to day 2. Okay, Sarah, you did a lot this day.
Yeah, I was busy for Wednesday.
Most of the whole, man, you were pretty busy for the entire week. But yeah, day 2 was the busiest for you. You had the Feather, About, Fitness Club Fiasco, Broods, which I liked a lot, Sons et al., Slaughter Beach, What Model Citizen. That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot of venue hopping.
And which ones out of those were the top picks for you?
You definitely had to be at Broods. That was a packed showcase. and they were really good. They were kind of like this year's Churches, I would say.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
In terms of who they brought in. Like, she was really young. They're from New Zealand, I think, and she's young, but she's really talented. They put on a good show. People were really into it. It was very upbeat and a good show. Probably one of the busiest shows I was at, actually, because a lot of the venues I went to this year, they were mostly empty, but for Broods, they managed to fill the Dakota pretty well. And then I also really enjoyed Sons et al. They were at the Dakota right after, and they're from Australia. And there were some slight things that they can tweak, but you can tell that what they're going for is pretty good.
There's a lot of big names coming out of, or upcoming talent from places like New Zealand and Sweden, I've found.
Oh, yeah.
Lately.
Yeah. And there are also a lot of bands from Australia.
Yeah, Australia. That's
Oh,
right.
AC/DC.
Like Elephant is from, where is she from?
She's
from
Swedish.
Yeah, she's Swedish
Yep.
too. There you go. And then so is Little Dragon. So that's a lot.
And Tovlo, which we covered as well.
Yeah, that was before CMW, but yeah, she's Swedish.
Yep.
Oh, and you were busy on day 2 as well. You did you covered our friends, the Box Tiger.
I did.
Brody Dale. How was that?
Well, it was one show. It was the Box Tiger opened, and then we had Kennedy Cult.
Yeah.
Yep, which I didn't even know were playing, but were a pleasant surprise actually. And then we had Brody Dahl, which was pretty fantastic. It was just crazy seeing the Box Tiger because in a similar fashion, I grew up with one of their members in high school. I grew up with Lauren Chan, their drummer, and I remember him in my math class. I remember seeing him perform at the Battle of the Bands, of which I was a part of, and I actually lost to his band. I'm pretty sure his band won one year.
Yeah,
Sticking Issues.
I photographed that. Yeah,
yeah, Sticking Issues
for the yearbook.
Yeah, I just remember him being close with the music teacher there. His name was Mr. Peslato. Actually, after the set happened and the Box Tiger went off stage, I texted Lauren Chan. I was like, "Oh yeah, Mr. Peslato's School of Wizardry has really worked on you." And he's like, "Yeah, Mr. Pez." Yeah, so it just felt so bizarre to see somebody that you in high school performing, like opening for Brody Dahl, who's like a pretty big punk figure.
Well, yeah, even before that, like I'm close to him too, but even just on Live in Limbo itself, the Box Tiger have a history. They were our first special guest on the Capsule podcast. And then, Sarah, you covered them when they opened for Foster the People.
Yeah, that was a huge show.
That was huge. So like steps there, and now they opened for Brody Dahl.
Yeah, and it's not even just that. I mean, I was talking to people in the audience, and you'd be surprised how many people came solely for the Box Tiger. That was incredible. And like, they're not solely from here. Some, like 1 or 2 members are from Portland, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just incredible. And I mean, I saw them coming on stage and I said, okay, don't be biased because Lauren's there. Oh, look, he just waved at you. Hey, Lauren, don't be biased. Truly see what they're like live. And they were pretty damn good. I mean, I think he's a really accomplished drummer. Sonia is like PJ Harvey, like the second. Fantastic vocals and like guitar playing. Just everything was on point. And I wrote this in my review that they're an interesting band because they try to, like, no pun intended, go outside of the box with their instruments. So instead of just playing like a chord, they'll throw in something to kind of tweak it up a bit. Lauren Chan will have ghost notes, which, if you don't know what that is, they're like very minimal kind of like strikes on either your tom or your snare that aren't like blaring at first, but they just add like a bit of texture to the rhythm. Just so many things just to spice things up a little bit. And you could tell that they're really trying, and it's like they did a great job, and people went crazy about them. They left, and then suddenly you see like these American flags that are lit up on stage. You see like JFK's face on the bass drum with like his face missing. It's just like his head, I think. And I was like, okay, here we go. Here comes like the real punky, like political oi 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 kind of stuff opening for Brody Dahl. Right, here we go. You see these guys in leather jackets come out. I was like, all right, time to put in the earplugs, because I was right up front. I was taking pictures for the shows. My photography virginity too as well, which I hope I did all right.
This was your first concert shoot too, yeah.
Yeah, and I had the similar problems where things were just appearing really dark. So I hope I did all right. I know now to stay more central, to not use such a big lens. I'll figure it out next time. But hopefully it was okay.
Yours came out okay.
Well,
They were
thank you.
fine. I edited them.
Way better than mine, clearly.
I got one from
Thank
Dakota.
you.
I got one usable one.
Oh wow,
It's okay
Well,
though.
it's okay,
One's
Dakota.
better than none. So
Exactly. Next time you'll like show all of us. Yeah. So I was just there and I said, okay, here we go. Time to put in my earplugs. I'm right up front. My ears are about to get destroyed. And they started playing like this really synthy kind of like 80s nostalgia stuff. And like the kind of stuff the Chromatics or anything off Italians Do It Better, that kind of label did. Or like if you know the movie Drive, that kind of a soundtrack. And it was really surprising. I said, whoa, okay, I did not expect this at all. And it was just very melodic. It was very soothing. And they were pretty good as well, actually. And yeah, no complaints. So that was good. And then it was pretty funny, actually, because for most of the night, people set up their own instruments. And for Brody Dahl's set, her guitar player was there, her bass player was there. And this blonde girl comes out with tattoos and she's setting up like the guitar amps and stuff. And everybody's going crazy, like, oh my God, that must be Brody Dahl. Clearly it wasn't. It was somebody who worked at the Horseshoe Tavern. And everybody was like losing their minds already. And I was like, guys, that's not her. But it was cool because when she actually did come out, you knew instantly, okay, that's her. Like she came out like with like a power stance, like a kill a lion. Like she just looked so fierce. She had like this tattoo, which I can't repeat because it's offensive.
It's that stage presence, right?
She had that crazy stage presence, and her music was actually extremely loud. But not in like a bad way. Like if you go to a punk show, it's the kind you expect. So my earplugs were fine. And she just killed it. She did a cover of the Misfits. She did a lot of old stuff with the Distillers and a lot of new stuff. She just killed it. She did a really good job. And I actually bought a rare poster, which I didn't know until today was actually signed at the bottom and numbered individually by her.
Nice.
I actually wanted to get it signed because my sister was a huge Distiller fan in high school, and I waited until 1:30 in the morning, but security kicked us out, so I said, well, darn. But it ended up being signed anyways, so it was a good show. I mean, for a punk show, the only aggressive band was Brody Dahl's. Apart from that, it was like everything else wasn't really punky, but it still worked together. I thought it was a great show. Every band was pretty significant.
And earlier,
and I imagine it was pretty packed for the show.
Yeah. My legs were breaking. I was up against the stage. People were going ballistic for Brody Dahl. I thought my legs were going to snap. That was scary.
Wow,
oh yeah.
You're like a tree. You're tall, so.
Yeah, I'm tall. I'm thick. I've got like, instead of leaves, I got a beard. I guess I don't know. I'm like an ant, and yeah, I thought my legs were going to snap. I thought it was like that scene in Lord of the Rings when like that huge like body of water comes and knocks them all over.
I was gonna say that. That's funny. And also earlier that day, you went to the Amanda Palmer celebrity interview.
Amanda Palmer was interviewed by a pretty big journalist. His name escapes me right now. Actually,
Bob Lefsetz.
There we go. Yeah, Lefsetz. There we go. Yeah, and it was very last minute. I was actually eating a Johnny Rockets because I haven't been there in a while, and you could ask Dakota. For some reason, I just feel like going there, and I finally did. I finally went there, and I was there eating this really big 50s style, like disgustingly like overfilled burger. I was like, oh well, I can make a mess of myself. I'm not going anywhere. I get an email.
I forward you, yeah.
I was like, oh damn, I've got to wipe my face now. So.
Sorry.
I booked it over there. Oh, don't be sorry. It was great. I booked it over there, and the same thing as what I said with the Nile Rodgers interview. I had to be escorted down. I got there, and we're sitting there, and then Bob Lefsetz comes out, and so does Amanda Palmer. For those of you who don't know, Amanda Palmer is a pretty big social media musician, and she also used to play in the Dresden Dolls, which were a pretty big band in the early 2000s. And she came out and basically went chronologically through her life, how she was an art student, how she became like one of those statues that you just see standing in the middle of the road, how that helped her kind of be like a performer because she never felt so vulnerable in her life, even though people kind of dismissed her as being a statue. She did that. She did stripping, actually, and she just slowly got into like her music career, created the Dresden Dolls, etc., etc., and it kept going. But each and every little milestone had this one idea in in the back of the whole set's mind, where I think I wrote this in a review where she actually quoted Dita Von Teese, who's like the number one burlesque dancer, I guess. A story that happened to her where she used to be a stripper as well, and she didn't want to be like your typical plastic, like brightly blonde kind of stripper. But she would go in these artistic costumes and it would confuse the hell out of people. They'd say, "What is this?" And she wouldn't even show nudity most of the time. And they say, "What is this? I didn't pay for this." But she did this because she said it's better to, every other stripper will get $1 from 50 guys in a room. So that's $50. It's better to be the one person where you only get one fan who gives you that 50 for your hard work. And that's kind of the quality
over quantity.
Exactly.
It's in a weird context, though. But, yeah.
It is, but it's a very striking context because it makes perfect sense. Because perversions in a strip club are the kind of mindset where you can expect people who won't think rationally, right? That's great. That it's a great way of saying you want to challenge people's minds and their perceptions, even though it's like an example which might be a bit controversial to some. And you could see that ringing through Amanda Palmer's career, where she said some things that she's gone into a lot of trouble for. She's been very, very much her own person when it comes to her work. She'll rely more on cults than on mainstream. Yeah, and it went really well. So I wrote a review on it, and she actually said it was good.
She retweeted it, and then she commented and said it was a beautiful piece. Thank you. That's
which
amazing.
It's a huge honor because she's a pretty big person in the social media world, and like I said, she's faced a lot of controversy. So I felt like this, it's not like something that she needed or anything, because obviously she doesn't need my opinion, but it just felt comforting that she liked what I said a lot, because she's somebody who's very vocal about people having misconceptions about her. So for her to feel like she was at peace with me was a really cool feeling. I said, wow,
it's like she read your work.
Yeah, it's
she
crazy.
Read it.
She read it and she liked it. I said, well, okay.
She found time in her day to read it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really nice.
All right, moving on to day 3. Sarah, you're busy again. You did Falls, Canvas, Leisure Cruise, Rubble Bucket, and Base Camp.
Wow.
How was that day?
And also Rush Midnight.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, it was, I spent time at Chahosky's, which I don't know if any of you have ever been there, but it's kind of like a restaurant with a stage at the back, and it's very small, so there were like maybe 25, 50 people there, maybe.
What kind of food?
I've never eaten there.
Oh, okay.
But Falls and Canvas, I think they're both local bands. It was Canvas's like 3rd show, I think they said, so they definitely have some things to still work out, but they have a good sound. Falls, they made that small room seem really huge because they have like such a big, broad 80s expansive sound where like the guy's voice just absolutely soared. It was pretty incredible to see. They were really good. And then I headed over to Lee's Palace to see Rubble Bucket, who were I think they're coming back actually for Riot Fest, and there are about 7 people in that band, and they have a great horn section. Definitely got the dance party started. Unfortunately, though, I went over to Baltic Avenue because I really wanted to see this one rapper who came all the way from London. Her name's Little Sims, and I got there right on time. I got there at 10:30 when the schedule said I should be there, and she had just finished her set. Everyone was going up to her and congratulating her and being like, "That was amazing, way to go!" And I was like, what? Like, you were supposed to be on at 10:30. And apparently she went on half an hour early.
Oh.
So
why did they do that?
I don't know. It was unfortunate. Silly. Yeah. Yeah. And it was funny because like someone else, one of my friends wanted to go to too, and she tweeted like, "Hey, why are performers going on early? Is there no schedule?" And it was just kind of funny that we both thought she was on at 10:30, but she went on at 10.
Something wrong happened.
Oh well. Yeah.
And then what about Leisure Cruise?
Leisure Cruise, they were really good. Very poppy, kind of like if you know St. Lucia. I would put them into the same category as that, except a female singer. But I can kind of like tropical pop. They were good as well. It's actually one of the guys from Broken Social Scene's new project. So he had Jimmy Shaw from Metric in the crowd cheering him on. And then Rush Midnight were on afterwards. And they are a 3-piece, and they kind of sound like Holy Ghost mixed with the Stills, I would say.
Oh, that's cool.
And Jesse Keeler from Death from Above 1979 was there. So it was a pretty pretty fun way to end my night.
And I think pretty much all of these bands like retweeted or posted it on their social media in some form or another.
Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then day 4, this was another big day. Let's see. This was our, what do we call it? This was like a 2 big event night because we had on one hand, the Chum FM Fan Fest with Tegan and Sarah and Ellie Goulding. And then on the other hand, we had City and Color at the Air Canada Center.
Actually 3 events because, well, not just the Nile Rodgers interview, but the spark of the Nile Rodgers Award at CMW.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so talk about that first then.
Well, I already went into meeting him. So that I got that out of the way, luckily. Unlike Amanda Palmer's interview, he didn't work chronologically. He did talk a little bit about his life, but somehow it just everything flowed together. Paul Williams conducted the interview. He's a Grammy and Oscar nominated songwriter. He's worked on The Muppets. He's worked with Barbra Streisand. Really big names, and he's a phenomenal songwriter. Phantom of the Paradise, he wrote that soundtrack and he played in it. He was Swan, the record producer. Mm-hmm. Big name. And the reason why these two are friends are because they collaborated with Daft Punk on last year's Random Access Memories, where Nile Rodgers worked on Give Life Back to Music, Lose Yourself to Dance, and Get Lucky, of course. And Paul Williams worked on 2 songs, including Touch, which I think was one of the best songs on the album, if not the best. And a lot of people agree. It was a very, very emotional song about his past alcoholism. So he conducted the interview, and it was weird because it seemed like it was just like friends talking, but because they're both so wise and full of experience that all of this knowledge just poured out of their heads and none of it was filler. It was just a very real, pleasant experience. They could have just talked about anything. And he actually just ended it. They were talking about something and Paul Williams goes, "Hang on a second, I think we should have questions." And that's how they ended it. They just threw in a Q&A quickly. He's like, "I think it's appropriate to have a Q&A." So they didn't really have any guidance. They just talked, but they're just such smart individuals. And at the very end of it, Paul Williams actually said, "Actually, I want to surprise you with something that you didn't see coming. We had this award at CMW before, but now, like, we're giving it a rebirth, and it's going to be in your names, the Nile Rodgers Award, and you're of course, the first recipient." So he got it, and he gave his thank you speech. He actually said that a song by Chic, which is one of his like main projects back in the 70s, he said that Chic won this other award from Canada where they had like the best-selling single in Canadian history at the time, which is really bizarre. I don't know why Chic would, even though they're fantastic, but and he said this is significant because it's like I like Canadian awards now because of this. So he's like, "I'm going to put this up right next to this award at home."
So Nile Rodgers won the first Nile Rodgers Award.
Yeah, well, that's
awesome.
why. It's
I know. That's awesome.
Yeah, so he won that, and he basically admitted that he didn't think Daft Punk would have won this year because he said, "I just don't do well with awards." When Get Lucky was set on the screen and it was announced while the award was just about to be given out, he talked to the guys at Daft Punk and said, "Sorry guys, I don't know if we're getting this. I just don't do well with awards." And to his surprise, they won. He said, "Wow, okay, we did win." So
that's good for him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a very, very interesting interview. It talked about his history, how he got into funk, initially trying to impress a girl with his guitar playing. It didn't work. 2 years later, after that, when he was basically like an amateur guitar player, he was writing for Sesame Street. That's a huge jump in 2 years. He got into funk because a fellow Chic member got him into funk while he was mostly like a classically trained guitar player or a jazz player. And he said something which was very interesting because I have this debate a lot where I say that commercial reward isn't the same thing as critical reception, where if something sells a lot, that doesn't mean it's good. A quote that Nile Rodgers lives by, I think it was his teacher that basically said, "It'd be an amazing event if I ever sold 1 million records." And Nile Rodgers said, "Why? That doesn't mean that it's good." And he said, "Because that means I affected 1 million strangers that I never ever met before. Are you saying that you're smarter than these millions of people?" And it's just some food for thought. It's a big overlining question because again, it doesn't equate to being actually.
Did those people actually like the music though? You don't know that.
That's what I'm saying. That's why you can actually debate this a little bit. But it's some food for thought, which I thought was very interesting. And yeah, he held that and a Ben-Hur quote where "Roll when you live," I believe is a quote where basically if you keep up with the mainstream and you just keep going, like if you never ever stop, you'll be fine. But you just have to keep going. He held those two quotes very close to him for most of his life, and yeah, it shows in his work. So that was that interview. It was intimate, easygoing, very inspirational.
Okay, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that you got to see that. And
That's
then,
great.
so we're gonna move on to those two other big shows. So I myself was in like a dilemma here because I wanted to make sure that our teams got into both of these events.
Yes.
The first one was the City and Color event at the Air Canada Centre, and we got into that one. That one was from Live Nation. And so, Sarah, you photographed that, and Andreas reviewed that. So, since Andreas had a lot of talking already,
Yeah, enough of me.
Sarah, how did you find that experience?
It was fun. I've shot a couple of shows at the ACC before, but it was nice to be there for City and Color and Half Moon Run. I'm a huge fan of Half Moon Run, and it's really nice to see them on such a large stage. And City and Color, I think it's so big that he managed to sell out the ACC, so it was cool.
I think, yeah, that was surprising, wasn't it? Like, I was kind of skeptical that if he was going to be able to sell it out, and he did.
Yeah, I mean, I know Metric sold it out when they played, and they're both playing Riot Fest again this year, so it's interesting that these like homegrown talents are able to sell out these huge venues, but it's great for them.
And so was there a lot of media there as well?
There were maybe about 8 photographers.
Okay, that's actually pretty small.
Yeah, it was pretty small. A lot of print publications, I think.
Ah, so not too many other online ones, I guess.
Yeah.
And so how was
yeah.
he? Like Dallas Green?
Dallas, I mean, you can hear photographers talking beforehand being like, if you can't get a good shot of Dallas, you're probably doing something wrong because he kind of just stands there.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a little fair. He's not exactly like, I'm going to jump around and do crazy things. I don't think anyone expects that, but he sounded great from what I heard the first 3 songs I heard. And he clearly put some work into his stage production, so that was nice. And yeah, it was good.
And Half Moon Run, you said you're a big fan. What does it mean to you to see like this band that you like finally get onto a grand stage like the ACC?
I can only imagine they're going to get huger and like bigger and bigger because I saw them, the first time I saw them was at the Horseshoe Tavern, and they were fantastic back then. Like their sound really fits that kind of like
When
club.
was that?
That was maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so it actually hasn't been that long. And I know they played the CBC Music Festival recently as well. So it was cool to see them. I think they were definitely enjoying the fact that they were playing their largest ever Canadian show. And I mean, they're playing the festivals too. They're playing Osheaga, and I think they're playing Governor's Ball as well. So they definitely have a lot coming up for them. And I think people really like their sound, and I can understand why. Like, it's a really good sound. So, they're very talented.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's great. And I think that post has a lot of reviews too. So, Andreas, what are your thoughts on that one?
I like Half Moon Run. I'm not like a huge fan of theirs, but I agree with what Sarah's saying. They're definitely performers. When they came out, they played a few songs, and then suddenly, I think it was like the 3rd or 4th song in, most of the band members just dropped their guitars or their basses or whatever, and they just picked up these percussive instruments, and they just all went at it at once. And it was like something out of Cirque du Soleil almost, without the acrobats, I think is what I wrote. It was just so surreal and like dreamlike with the lighting, the way that they were performing with such precision. It was crazy. And then like they just went ballistic on stage, yet during the downtime between each song when they would talk to the audience, it just seemed so real and not full of it. And then the last song, which is Sarah, what's it called, the new single?
I have no idea.
She doesn't know who I am or something.
She wants to know?
She wants to know. There we go.
There we go.
During that song, the stage just went red, like it was a dark room, like during the climax of the song. It was just so, they just did a really good job. Even if you're not like a big fan of their music, they're definitely performers at heart, and they were fantastic. And City and Color was great as well, actually. You didn't get a chance to stay for the whole show, did you, Sarah?
No, first 3 songs, and then I had to get out of there.
They boot you out.
Ah,
That's how it is for photographers.
You
I mean,
missed
I've
something.
seen
You get the best seats in the house for the first 3 songs, and then you're out.
exactly.
It's a
I've seen
sacrifice.
City in Color before, so it wasn't a huge blow to me, but yeah.
Right. So you've seen when it's just him on stage and he's playing to the crowd with just as a guitar, right?
Right.
That's truly like the best part of the show was when he was doing stuff like that, just him by himself. Just so magical feeling, and just so crazy how he just spoke tenfold when it was just him by himself. His band was great and everything, but I think the biggest problem was the ACC muddles sound way too much, and
Yeah.
it makes like the highs, like whether it be like a guitar solo or singing a falsetto, it makes any high sound just very piercing. And it's unfortunate because he actually did a really good job. And again, I'm not like huge on Dallas Green or City in Color, but first of all, he's really talented live. Like he'll do stuff that he doesn't do on album live, like just hit these crazy notes and do these crazy runs. And then like you said, the light show is pretty spectacular as well. As a performer, he killed it. He did an excellent job. I just wish that the sound played better to what he was doing, because there would be parts where I'd see his hands going crazy on the guitar and I wouldn't hear a thing. I wouldn't hear a solo.
That really sucks. Yeah, I guess the ACC has like a weird sound system. It's hard to get good acoustics in such a large area.
That's not his fault.
It's not a great venue for sound. People know that.
Yeah.
He killed it though. That's all I know.
Sarah hates when you say killed it, so.
Oh, really?
It's my pet peeve.
He did away with it. I don't know.
Sarah, what's a word that we can use?
He did a great job. He did a fantastic performance.
Yes, he was splendid.
Yes,
exquisite. All right, and then the second big show of the night was the Chum FM Fan Fest. Dakota, you helped review that, and I photographed that.
I did. That was a lot of fun.
Okay, so the big thing for me was that it felt like the entire lineup was in reverse order. Okay, so there were like 4 openers or 5.
Whoa.
Something like that.
And then the 2 headlining artists. So first of all, Alyssa Reed went first. Like out of the 5 openers, Alyssa Reed went first, but she was like the largest and most popular out of those 5. And then they went from her, and then they progressively went to the lesser known artists. So I thought that was interesting. And then the same thing too. Wasn't Tegan and Sarah supposed to headline that show? And then
I think it was always Ellie Goulding.
But if you go look at the posters, it says Tegan and Sarah first.
I don't know. I thought they always advertised it. Like I always thought that she was headlining it.
Yeah. And then, well, it was weird because after the Tegan and Sarah set, like a third of the crowd left. I was like, ooh, that was weird. And
I mean, Tegan and Sarah have such a huge dedicated fan base that I can understand why they wouldn't stick around.
Yeah. But
it's kind of unfortunate because I think Ellie Goulding is really good. So.
Yeah, I do too. The only good thing was that I got to see the full Tegan and Sarah set because of that. So that was great. Dakota, your thoughts?
I saw both of the artists play last year at Osheaga, so I knew going in what to expect, and they're both very high energy performers. Ellie Goulding, whether you like her music or not, she is probably one of the most energetic, fun people to watch. She just puts on a hell of a show. She's always dancing around, engaging the crowd, talking, things like that. And everything she does, she just seems like she's enjoying herself, which, what more can you ask from a concert?
Exactly. And did you find it like really hot there too? Because
it was unbearably hot. Like
they didn't check the air conditioner system or something.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I went out with a spring jacket, and then I had a button-down shirt and then a t-shirt on underneath. By the end of the night, I had my button-down off. I shoved it in my bag, and I had to roll up my sleeves on my t-shirt because it was way too hot in there.
You should have seen all the photographers in the pit too. There were a lot of photographers actually. I think there were like maybe 15 in the cool house there.
I imagine it was brutal.
Everyone was sweating. It was gross.
And Tegan, I won't repeat it on the podcast, but she dropped quite a few F-bombs.
Yeah, is that normal?
I know she has a bit of a foul mouth. Last time I saw her, she swore a bit too. And it's kind of interesting to see that there's like such sweet music and such a potty mouth woman.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. I'm like, whoa, she's dropping a lot of these F-bombs all of
But
a
it
sudden.
it got a little bit better for Ellie Goulding. I don't know if it was because so many people left, or they finally was like, oh, whoops, the artists are complaining about it. Maybe we should do something about the air.
Well,
but
from the pit, the security had to pull like 7 people from the mosh because they were like dehydrated.
really,
Yeah.
that's scary.
So yeah, they had like a safety hazard there.
I will say, as far as some of the opening bands go, I'm not going to name any names, but I'm not too sure if they were all performing live.
Oh,
Shots fired.
I'm not gonna disparage anyone. I have no concrete proof other than one of the performers brought out a guest, and they would put the microphone up to their mouth, sing some words, put the microphone down and start dancing, and then I would hear the lyrics over the sound system. That's just a little bit fishy to me.
Yes, that's it.
Yikes.
Yeah, it is. But it's weird because the openers all had amazing lighting, and then the headliners had like less.
All red.
Great, yeah, all red. Hence black and white photos.
Now, when I saw your tweet when you were said, I guess to paraphrase, holy shit, did anyone else think Tegan and Sarah's set was hot? I thought you meant them, not like the actual temperature. And I said, that's a bit informal for a review there, Dakota.
Wait, Dakota, you meant like hot, like literally, or what?
Like temperature
Oh,
wise.
you did. Okay, yeah, yeah. Just making sure.
I saw some tweet that said that they were complaining about the Cool House was hot, and that's kind of what it was directed. I guess, maybe I should have been more clear with what the meaning of that tweet was. But hey, Tegan and Sarah, they're both beautiful women. So if you want to think of it as that way, then so be it.
I thought it was like that at the beginning.
It was definitely because of the temperature and the fact that I thought I was going to pass out from the heat, though.
I wasn't sure, and I was like, well, it sounds like he's having a ball. I guess.
No, it was fun. It was fun.
I mean, the Cool House is closing down in January. They don't need air conditioning anymore. They don't care.
They've already stopped paying.
That's sad.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Now they won't have a light show because of electricity bill won't be paid.
So what other mid-sized venues are there?
There is
Sound
the
Academy.
Danforth Music Hall
Yeah.
and the Sound Academy
That's it.
and Echo Beach.
Oh.
What about Opera House?
The Opera House is a bit smaller, though.
Yeah.
I consider that more in the small to mid, not necessarily the medium size.
Yeah. It's definitely going to leave a gap in Toronto's concert venues, though.
Yeah, that's...
Yep.
But that's a different conversation for a different day, I think.
Yeah, that's right. That can go on for a long time. And then finally, day 5.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we'll start off with television because you got to do something rare.
I
Andreas.
got to interview Tom Verlaine. Yes.
That's right. Which you didn't mention at the beginning as one of your fave moments, but I guess it's because it was bittersweet, kind of.
Yes and no. Okay, so basically the fact that I got to interview Tom Verlaine at all is a godsend, and the fact that so many people have noticed this is a blessing, so I'm all for it. Now,
Wait, just to put this into context, usually we don't like to do like text interviews, and we would require like either video or to be on the podcast. And then so when I sent in the request, then someone from AudioBud sent me it back and they were like, yes, Tom would like to do an interview, but only via email. So send us your questions. Then I was like, Andreas, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so usually for some reason I'm just very quick when it comes to writing things. For some reason I just work off the top of my head and it seems to work. But I was really grasping at straws for this because I said, okay, what do I ask Tom Verlaine? This guy is a very respected musician and
he has a history of awkward interviews.
Yes, that as well. And I wish I did more research on that. But I tried to make very specific questions, like instead of just, what do you think of the festival? I was asking stuff like, do you think the current retro trends are hurting our cultures and not helping us move forward? Or do you think they're helping our cultures and informing us of our past? Just really complicated things like that. I was trying really hard. I worked on these for 2 hours and I said, okay, I've got a very standard set of 10 questions. This should be good. And I said bon voyage, gave those away, and I waited. And then Sean and I did more research, and apparently I asked a few things I shouldn't. Now, at first, it seems like Tom Verlaine's a little bit like
A dick.
yeah, a little bit. I didn't want to say it, but now that the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of siding with him because I feel like a lot of people attribute him as part of a scene that he doesn't wish to be a part of. He just happened to be lumped in it, and that's the punk scene. And because television are seen as a very influential band in proto-punk or post-punk music, a lot of people will lump them with punk bands, like The Clash, for instance, who tried to break out of punk's genre conceptions as well. Now, because of that, I think it irks him a lot when people try to ask him about punk because he's really somebody that doesn't really even like punk or know too much about it. And I was a fool, and I asked him about punk.
So we sent 10 questions in, and we got 5 back. But just to put this into context, only out of all the media people that sent in requests, only 4 got the chance to send in this in this email interview. And I was told that we got more answers than the other ones. So if we got 5 out of 10, I don't want to know how much they got. But then you got to you fleshed out the whole thing, and you made a really good article that people have read. Sarah, you were photographing the show last night.
Yeah, and the guy in front of me turned around and asked who I was shooting for. I told him Live in Limbo, and he was like, "I was just reading your interview with him." I was like, "Oh yeah,
well, that's interesting. Cool. Do you remember what he looks like at all, or?"
No, I wouldn't be able to tell you. He said he'd look for the photos, so maybe he's looking at the site right now. Who knows?
Cool.
But yeah, he was like, it seemed like it was a tough interview, and I was like, yeah, he doesn't talk a lot.
He acknowledges my efforts. Yay.
Yeah. He said he liked your last question.
So
he had that going for you.
Well, go back in time and tell him thank you. I appreciate that.
But it's funny that you talk about like him not liking punk and all that, because when I was watching their set, I saw the first few songs before I left the venue. But when I was watching it, I didn't get punk at all. Like I was waiting. I was totally expecting something different because I don't really know television that well. Yeah. And just what they were doing, I would never classify that as punk.
It's difficult because post-punk is still very far from punk, no matter what band you're thinking of. Like for instance, Joy Division's classified as post-punk as well, and I don't hear much punk there as well. But that's because we have these cultures that have been embedded in our conceptions of what punk is. Back then, I'm guessing that kind of song structure with the rhythm guitar being like those striking chords, the kind of vocal styles that Tom Verlaine has, a lot of it can be seen as pretty punky because you could actually kind of compare his vocals to that of Johnny Rottens, except a lot more classy, I guess, and a lot more pleasant.
I was totally getting David Byrne when I was watching them. I was like, you sound a lot like David Byrne, which I get is like also, I think, classified as post-punk, but it wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah, David Byrne's actually, I think Talking Heads were big fans of television, I think. So you're 100% on the ball there. So it's tough because people will ask me about television because I guess I go on about them all the time. So this was a very fitting concert for me. And they'll say, okay, let's hear this proto-punk masterpiece. And I'll put in Marquee Moon and they'll say, I don't get the punk in this at all. And it's the same reaction that you have. It's so subtle, but it is there if you dig really deep. But I guess that's what Tom Verlaine's going on about, the fact that it isn't like this blatant thing where it's like, oh, yep, there's the punk I hear like right now. It's just like a little bit of a minimalist stroke in a painting that has like many strokes, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And he actually, his reply was in all caps to you and said, I don't know much about punk. All caps.
I don't know much about punk music. It's kind of
actually,
like
all of his replies to your 5 questions, well, the 5 that he chose were all one-liners and not grammatically correct, and except that one.
That's okay. I mean, the questions that he did want to answer, he did give me some good things to work with, like the fact that he likes war paint. So I wouldn't have expected that. That's really cool. And the one thing that he mentioned is the fact that he likes how accessible the internet is now, which really got to me for some reason, in a good way, I mean. And because I'll never be in his position to know what it's like to not have this accessibility to all of these artists or to all of these articles or to anything, right? And
well, that's interesting because I think all four of us grew up in the middle of that age, because even in our early lives, we're about the same age, but in our early lives, we did not have that accessibility either. We had to go to the library and rent stuff and stuff like that. But then halfway through our lives, now we have the internet, and boom, you can stream anything and download anything on the fly.
Yep. And it was just interesting because to see the audience that I was amongst that television set, there were fans that were probably younger than me. There were fans that were older than me who were talking about stuff like Woodstock, like right beside me. And even they were going on about how crazy the show was. They were saying, this is phenomenal. They're killing it. They're doing an excellent, superb job live. Yes. You know what? I'm starting to side with you there. Killing it sounds a bit redundant.
Yes, it does.
I finally, my eyes are open to that.
Like, unless you're a doctor.
You're killing it. You're killing it, son.
I killed killing it. I'm killing it. Yeah.
Oh, you're killing him, sir. It's like, yeah, I'm so good. No, you're really killing him. No. I'm killing the joke now. So they said, wow, television are really doing a phenomenal job. And these are people who have clearly been to like a lot of concerts. I even talked to her like, when was the last time we went to a concert? It's been a while. Yeah, like last month. I know, it was a while away. So they clearly go to concerts all the time, and even they were blown away by this. Just what a fantastic show. That's easily like in my top 5 concerts that I've ever been to.
Wow. And how about the opener?
Apparently, there's a bit of a divide. Only a little bit, because I thought they were passable, and I thought they were kind of pleasant, and I liked a few things that they did, but you thought they were pretty bad, didn't you?
Yeah, I was not a fan. I like Brendan Canning. I think he's a great guy. I love his work Broken Social Scene. I like his recorded work. I just thought he phoned in his performance, which I get because he was working bare bones, but it just kind of seemed like a band that had never done anything before. And like, if you didn't know who Brendan Canning was and you just went there and saw him play, I don't think you would have liked him.
I understand, because actually I forgot he was a part of Broken Social Scene.
There you go.
And I saw them, and I didn't even make that correlation until I tried to do my article. And I was like, oh, right, it's this guy. So I thought it was just some guy who had a guitar friend and picked up some girl on one of his tours to be like a percussionist. And I wasn't like blown away, but I still was like a little bit
You were
taken
positive.
aback.
You were positive.
Yeah, I was positive about it, but I wasn't like, it wasn't like Elephant or even Half Moon Run where I said, okay, these are opening acts, right? Or even like the Box Saga. I wasn't like, okay, these are opening acts. I just thought, you know what, this is an opening act. This is what I expect. Somebody who just opens the show, does like a pretty passable job. It's pleasant, and that's it. Like, I wasn't blown away or anything, but
Yeah.
I think my expectations are above passable job. That's all.
you know what? I don't blame you, because they should be. If you're doing a performance, they should be 100%.
You should be at the top of your game all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Sorry, Brendan.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
sorry,
Sarah,
Brendan.
you did double duties as you did television, and then you jumped all the way to the Indie Awards, which Dakota you reviewed. So, Dakota, how was that? Was this your first Indie Awards?
It was, absolutely. It was so much fun. I didn't really know what to expect. Is it going to be like a industry kind of party thing?
Well, I've been to it 3 times before, and Sarah, you've been to it like what, 3 times too?
This was my 4th time.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, Dakota, this was your first time. How was that?
It was great. It was a lot of fun. You know, it was really casual and relaxed, and I felt the theme of the night was, let's celebrate these great Canadian artists that maybe don't usually get the recognition, you know, as deserving as Arcade Fire and City and Color is for all the awards that they get, for Junos, for Grammys, for whatever it is. They deserve all that. But, you know, from an outsider, you look at Canada, are they the only 2 talented musicians making music? Absolutely not. There's so many great Canadian artists working, and that's kind of what the theme was. And like, they seem to only present the awards to bands that were actually there, They presented like one to Arcade Fire, one to City and Color. They weren't there, but the rest of it, I'm pretty sure every band was there, and they were all blown away. Yeah, Half Moon Run won, and they weren't there either. But July Talk won, and they came up and they're like, we didn't expect this, so thanks. And one band came up and was like, awesome, we're gonna have some more beers now. And Wildlife came up, clearly still from the buffet table, and like half the guys had sandwiches in their hands. So like that aspect of it was kind of cool. Like it was not your typical stuffy award show. It was a party for artists to celebrate other artists and for the fans to really be there, because they're the ones that make them who they are. They're the ones that, go out and buy a ticket to see them at, a small club, and you pack it tight and you dance and you sing along and you make them proud to be what they're doing. So I really dug the atmosphere that they had going on, and all the performances were fantastic.
Who stood out the most performance-wise?
Little Dragon was fantastic. They're a known commodity. You know what you're going to get. But they still put on like this really kind of like hypnotic trance show where like it was way more of like a club you'd expect to be in the 90s, but it was really cool. Who else was there? Strumbellas, yeah. They were really good. They only played, I think, 3 songs, and so it was such a short set, but I really enjoyed them. The Mounties, I never heard of them before. I thought they were just another up-and-coming Canadian band, but then I didn't realize that they were a supergroup consisting of Hawksley Workman and the lead singer of Hot Hot Heat and the lead singer of Limb Lifter, which was really cool.
How were they live, actually, the Mounties?
They were phenomenal. Like, they kind of started out with like this sort of OK Go stroke sort of indie rock with synth sort of thing, but then they kind of like progressed into this like crazy prog rock odyssey with like lots of electronic 80s synthesizer sort of stuff.
Wow.
So it was really high energy. Like, everyone was really getting into it. At one point, the bass player took out a giant bow and was playing his guitar that way.
Nice.
The guy from Hot Hot Heat, Steve Bays, he was like leaning his keyboards off to the side at like a 45-degree angle and playing it that way and like pounding on the keys. And I thought Hawksley Workman, who was on drums, I felt like he was trying to set the record for the most drum fills in a song. Like, it was like nonstop, like rolling beats going across all the drum kits. I don't know how he didn't pass out.
That's awesome. And so, Sarah, what did you think of the Indies?
They're great. They're always a fun time. They're fun to shoot. They're well lit, which is always nice as a photographer.
Yeah.
I only got there I saw one Born Ruffian song that I was able to photograph, and then Colorado, always a fun band. And the hidden cameras, I thought, were oddly positioned in between Colorado and Little Dragon, because they're more like they described it as, I think it was gay orchestral folk music.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So they're a fun band, and there are so many of them. It just felt kind of like a strange position for them in the set.
I don't know. With that, yeah. They've been around forever. They've got a big following, but it seemed like the crowd there didn't really know who they were.
Yeah, I think the crowd was definitely geared towards the younger bands, which is unfortunate, but it happens.
Mm-hmm. And what did you think of Little Dragon? Their bassist Frederick was on our podcast last week, and they seemed pretty great to us.
Yeah, they're really nice.
What did you think?
Yeah, they regrabbed my Instagram photo of them, which was cool. It has like 1,300 likes now. So
amazing!
Wow,
thanks. Yeah. As far as electronic music go, they don't make the type of electronic that I would normally listen to. I think they put on a good show for what they do. It's just not my type of music.
That's fine. Hey, so all of you actually have had your experiences of artists, retweets, and stuff like that this week. What does that feel like for you?
Oh, it's nice. Like, sure, you can like my photo. That's fine. And then, thanks for giving me credit. That's cool.
And Dakota, you had one too with who was that? Coalition Music. They retweeted you.
They did. Both Coalition Music. They actually didn't even retweet me. They put out a brand new tweet saying, "Hey, Live in Limbo in Dakota covered Justin Nizuka. Check it out," sort of thing.
Wow.
And then Justin's older brother George, who's a pop singer in his own right, was retweeting and favoring everything that I put out about the show and the links and stuff like that, which was kind of cool. But then, there's the completely opposite side of the spectrum. Sean, if you want to talk about the Tegan and Sarah incident, you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, you talk about it.
Okay. It's when I write about a band or whatever, I try to make sure I have all the facts that I can, because there's nothing more embarrassing than putting the wrong information out there. So, when I'm writing, I'll bring up the band's official website and any recent articles or interviews with them, so I can, if there's specific people they've worked with, band members, I know who they are. During the Tegan and Sarah show, I specifically called out their drummer, saying that they were really great and I enjoyed their drumming. And I put in the name, I think it said Jason McGreer. I got this from Tegan and Sarah's official website. It says, hey, let's meet our backing band, blah, blah, blah. They play guitar, they play keys, and here's our drummer, Jason McGreer. And I was like, oh, cool, okay, here's his name. Oh, and look, he also plays with Death Cab for Cutie. He's a pretty big drummer, so, I'll include that little tidbit too. And then you posted a link to the article, and all of a sudden you seem to get flooded with
I got flooded.
Angry Tegan and Sarah fans saying that I put the wrong drummer in the article.
Oh.
So we were on the verge of like a Tegan and Sarah fan war there.
Yeah, like I'm sure if the way you and I handled it, if that went any differently, they probably would have all been disparaging us and saying, hey, don't go to this site. They don't even know what they're talking about. They're a bunch of phonies.
We got like 20 tweets within like 20 seconds. And good thing I had an iPhone with me. I always have my phone with me, but then I could change it really quickly.
I was out shopping.
Yeah.
Next time you should try and give them a negative review. See what happens.
Oh, God.
Oh.
No way. I don't want them to be all Justin Bieber fans on us. And luckily, I was out shopping on Queen Street when you sent me a text, and I'm looking at Twitter and being like, how are we gonna handle this? And the people that were being the most vocal, I explained. I said, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I got this information from Tegan and Sarah's official website. That's who the drummer is listed as. And Sean, by this time you had changed it to the correct one. And they're all like, oh yeah, that's so crazy. They should definitely change that. And then the actual drummer, Adam, I can't remember his last name, reached out and said, oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I'll get them to change that on the website.
So,
it's nice that their fans are paying attention.
Oh yeah, I think they're on it the most. Tegan and Sarah fans.
I got so many like new Twitter followers because of that Tegan and Sarah article, and like I could tell because I'd read their bio and it said Tegan and Sarah super fan or something like
super fan. Yeah. Do you notice how initially when they're like at Live in Limbo you have to change this, then the first thing I did was I CC'd you to make sure that you got all the heat from it.
Yeah, I noticed. So I got a whole bunch of tweets on my timeline blowing that up. So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
But it just made me feel like I hate writing something, and if my information is incorrect, I take that very personally, because when I'm writing, that's my integrity on the line. It's your site, and I'm sure you always want to make sure it's as factually correct as possible, but I take it very personally, not because I'm disparaging the Live in Limbo name, but because I failed as a writer, as a journalist, whatever you want to call me, as doing my job properly, and that's to get the facts right.
That's right. And do you guys feel the same too, Sarah and Andreas?
Absolutely. You don't want to put out wrong information. You have to check. You have to check your facts.
Yeah, I'm kind of this. Well, I'm not kind of the same way. I'm very much so the same way. I just obviously you've got to be accurate, but I just wanted to comment though. You're gonna get flack if you ever take part in very big known artists, even if it's positive or negative. Because you were kidding about giving a negative Tegan and Sarah review. I gave a positive Lady Gaga review, and that got destroyed by people who just don't even like Lady Gaga and were trying to find positive things about her.
That's funny. You gave a positive review and you still got hate mail.
Actually, I did for Amanda Palmer's.
Oh yeah, you got that too from
interview as well.
Yeah.
Really, on an interview?
Yeah, I got her retweeting it saying, "Oh, thank you, that was nice," which I was like, "Yeah, I'm appreciative." You go to the comments on Live in Limbo. And
There's one person who
there's one there. I don't know. There might be more now. I don't know. But there was one where they basically said, "How could you call Amanda Palmer classy? This and that." It's like this person is just like an attention seeker. I can't remember exactly what it said, but either way, that's like the only comment I got. I said, "Well, thank you. I'm glad. Like the only people who care enough to comment are the people who are angry enough to like even care this much."
and you learned your lesson not to comment
No.
on that. No.
I vowed to never ever comment again because I tried to comment with the Lady Gaga ones, with the Lady Gaga comments, and that
went on for 90
really
comments. 90 comments there, like paragraphs and paragraphs.
Yeah, I don't wish to be part of that.
That's why Pitchfork doesn't allow people to comment on their articles.
Yeah.
They're
that
smart
would just
doing
be a
that.
cesspool.
Yeah.
Especially with that Eminem show review of theirs, which was clearly tongue-in-cheek. Oh, this album's great. Oh, actually, no, it's not. You're just taking the piss out of Eminem. Well, screw you then.
Yeah.
Just a huge amount of fighting on that site because of all those kinds of reviews, especially. Yeah, but...
I want to do so that was all 5 days there, and now I want to do something special. So from each of you, what's one thing that you learned from this week? Andres, you first. Keep it brief.
Might have to give me a second.
Okay, fine. We'll go with Dakota then.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, great. Okay. I've done music festivals in the past. I think they're fantastic. The CMW, the way at least the shows that I was at, didn't allow for as much club hopping as say North by Northeast does, where the sets are like short and tight and on time sort of thing. Maybe it's just because I was doing the bigger showcases. So, if I could do the more club hopping and see more bands, that would have been interesting. But for me, it was, how do I word this? I just feel both myself, my work, and the site itself took a very big step. Like I got a lot of feedback, and that was very affirming for me. And so that's kind of what I took away from it was, some people are reading my stuff and they're enjoying it, and Live in Limbo and Sean, you're putting out great stuff. Andreas, I have to say your Nile Rodgers piece was probably the best thing I've ever read that you've done.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
It was just very personal. If you've ever read my stuff, I usually always include a little personal paragraph of, why this band is important to me or some nonsense like that. And I felt like your Nile Rodgers piece was very personal, and like it really showed who you are as a person. And it's just a very strong piece that I connected with.
Thank you. I appreciate that highly. Thank you.
No problem.
Sarah, what's one thing that you learned this week?
I learned that I wish there was more of me. I mean, you know how much I struggled on Saturday night when I was at the Indie Awards because there were so many other shows I really, really wanted to be at. Like I really wanted to go see King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard again, and I really wanted to go see Operators.
Operators, yeah.
They played 3 shows and I missed all of them, and they were supposed to be amazing.
And Sarah's interesting because you get home at like 3 a.m. most nights.
Ooh.
3 a.m., yeah. And I stay up super late just editing photos and trying to get them done and then doing it again the next day. And it's pretty tiring. I learned that as well.
And then I get her photos in at like 6:30 a.m. and she's off to bed, and that's when I wake up.
I wish there was more of me. Yeah.
They can't really change that though.
Last night, I really wished I was at the Owen Pallet and Doldrum show at Danforth Music Hall.
What time was that at?
Similar times.
Oh,
I think Owen Pallet went on at 10-ish. I know Doldrums as well. He used to be in another band with some people that I knew, and goes back in high school, but he puts on a really cool electronic art rock show, and Owen Pallet's fantastic.
That's awesome. And so, Andreas, what did you learn?
What I learned is basically I don't know if I did as many reviews as Dakota or Sarah did, because it seems like they went through a lot of things. But just being able to converse with a lot of people in like the same industry as us, just be able to talk to them, go to all these events, pretty much live and breathe CMW, whether it be conferences or going to actual concerts or just the actual environment itself, just talking to all these people. I learned kind of what it would feel like to be this as, like to have this as a permanent career. Like like throughout my entire life, and that it was a really satisfying feeling. Not because it's something I can have a lot of gain off of, but it's something I can get a lot of connectivity off of. It's something that made me understand how people work and how life works a little bit more through my passion, which is obviously going to all these shows and interviewing or meeting all these people. I got to learn a lot of valuable lessons from Amanda Palmer and Nile Rodgers and even Paul Williams. I got to talk to all of these fans, see how they felt about the show, what they were excited about, meet all these generations of people. I just saw this huge amalgamation of experience, of wisdom, of passion, of music, the different circles of how people worked, like how do people respond to like a concert at the ACC with Sydney Color, how do they respond to Brody Dahl at the Horseshoe Tavern, just how things were just so different. And basically I learned all the dynamics of this kind of job and why I don't think it'll ever die down for me, because it'll just permanently have something interesting for me to grasp onto.
That's amazing. And for myself, I learned that having a very solid core and loyal team is very important for covering a festival like this. Like, not one person can ever by him or herself cover like a CMW or a North by Northeast. You need a dedicated team that knows what they're doing, and they can get their photos and writings in a timely manner. So I thank all of you for that. That's great.
Well, thank you for letting us do this.
Yeah, thanks for posting it all up.
Yeah,
and that too.
For me, I have to post it up really like quickly too, and that takes a while, but it's fine.
And edit my photos.
Yeah. And
Wow.
So let's get to the thank yous. Okay, lots of thank yous. A big personal thank you from the whole Live in Limbo CMW Special Ops team for all of you guys for helping out. This includes Sarah Ricks, Andreas Babiolakis, Dakota Arsenault, and Neil Van, Tashana Biley, and Ray Williams, and of course myself was there as well. A mega thank you to Audio Blood, Sari Delmar, for organizing such a huge event and improving us for everything as that we requested. And we all look forward to CMW 2015. And so, where can we all find you, Andreas?
You can find me at Andreas Babs, where I won't have any more CMW updates, but I will try and keep this consistent delivery of tweets. So at Andreas Babs.
And you'll be doing North by Northeast. So
I will be
for that, yes.
Yeah.
And Dakota, where can they find you?
I am at DGAPA or DGAPA, however you want to say it. And then I also have my own website where I post my random musings that don't really fit into regular article lengths. It's dgappa.tumblr.com. And it's just kind of sporadic things that go up once every few weeks.
And we try to retweet that as well.
Yes, you do. And I'm very grateful for that because I know I get a lot of hits because of it.
Yay. And Sarah, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter at Beets, like the vegetable, Beets, and also on Instagram at Sarah Ricks.
That's awesome. And you can find myself on Twitter at Sean Chin. You can follow Live in Limbo at Live in Limbo, of course. And you can find the show notes at liveinlimbo.com/capsule. Thank you, everyone, for listening this week. We can't wait to cover North by Northeast next month. So stay tuned.